Well, let's get straight into it, mate. I'm here with World Championship trainer Glenn Rushton. Glenn, mate, it's been a crazy few days in Australian boxing. You watched the fight the other night, Nikita Tszyu, Michael Zerafa. What were your key takeaways?
Oh, look, it was a really disappointing end to what was potentially a great fight. So, it was a terrific fight and it's shaping up well. I thought that Michael probably won the first round. Nikita won the second round. I had it that way. I think most people did. I mean, it looked to me in the second round that Nikita was just getting stronger and just starting to find his place in the fight. And yeah, it was building to a terrific fight. It was just a tragedy the way that it ended, Joe. Really, really sad way to end a great fight.
Hmm. What did you make of, I guess, the style matchups in there? It looked like Nikita sort of imposed his physicality there in round two, and Michael had a decent first round as well.
Yeah, it really did. Like, as I said, Michael come out strong in that first round. He looked a little desperate, but it was certainly, come out strong, which was good. But yeah, I think it was shaping up really well. I did feel like you that the physicality of Nikita was starting to come through a little in the second round. He just looked like he's finding his feet and just starting to get that strength. As we all know, he's very physically and mentally strong, Nikita. So, and he was just starting to get that confidence and starting to land a nice left hand, nice jab, and he started to land some nice clean shots there. And yeah, it did look like he was getting on top in that second round.
So much has been said about what happened there at the start of the third round. From your perspective, watching at home, how did you see it unfold?
Look, the thing that I found really weird is, firstly, the first question I'd say is, what was the doctor doing there? The doctor doesn't normally come over unless someone in the corner either says to the referee, "Oh, look, we'd like to see the doctor," or someone says to the doctor during the round, "Look, I'd like to, can you check Michael out at the end of this round," or something. Normally it's one of the corner that prompts either the referee or the doctor, because what was the doctor even doing there? Like, it wasn't a significant cut at all. It wasn't significant that you'd think, like, if you've got a situation where Tim Tszyu is fighting Fundora and you've got a really major cut with blood running down in the eye, yeah, you can understand the doctor wanting to have a look at it. But this was just a nothing cut, I mean, yeah, just a little nick, and it's on the eyelid. Like, when they're on the eyelid, it's not such a problem because it doesn't bleed as much. Plus, when they're above the eye, the danger, of course, is that's the worst problem, because then it runs down into the eye. But if it's below the eye, it's not such a problem. And on the eyelid, it doesn't get hit as much on the eyelid there. So where it was unlikely to get continually hit. It's hard to target it when it's right on the eyelid like that.
Hmm. Now, you've obviously worked with Michael Zerafa before. Were you not asked to be a part of this fight? How did that all transpire for
No,
yourself?
I was never part of the camp or the corner or anything at all. I basically sent text to Mike and just wished him all the best for the fight. That's it. I didn't have any involvement with the camp or the fight or anything at all. I did invite him if he wanted sparring up here. I said, you're welcome. I've got some boys who can do rounds, but yeah, he never took me up on that. So basically, yeah, it was just, I was a spectator like you were for the fight.
Did it surprise you at all watching at home? Obviously no one's in Michael's head, but one he would know as a fighter, and we all would know, as soon as you say you can't see, the doctor's sort of under an obligation, or the ref's under an obligation to stop the fight.
Yeah, look, anyone who knows anything about boxing knows that the rules, particularly internationally, sometimes the rules used to say you only needed three completed rounds, but all the major international sanctioning bodies, they're all the same. You must have four completed rounds before it's a contest. So if there's an accidental foul that causes the stoppage, and this was an accidental foul, it was a glancing sort of head clash. It wasn't a big head clash. It was like a glancing head clash that caused this. So it's an accidental foul. Everyone knows, anyone who's been boxing for a little while knows that, it has to go 4 rounds. So in this case, it was going to be a no contest. And I think it was really clear. And as you say, the referee did absolutely nothing wrong. The doctor did nothing wrong. The doctor was compelled, given the fact that Michael said he can't see, and he didn't say it once. We all know it was repeated. So when someone says they can't see, like, a doctor has to do that. But from what I could see on the TV, and I couldn't see really well, but you can see pretty clearly, it didn't look like, normally when a fighter's eye is losing vision, as you know, your eye will try and compensate, so the pupils will dilate more. And you can normally see one of the pupils is dilated more than the other, so you can see that eye is struggling. But on the TV, there didn't look like there was a problem there, but not saying there wasn't, because only the fighter himself knows that. But the injury didn't look to be one that would cause that, and certainly it didn't look. When a fighter is clearly blurry, you can sort of see his vision just looks different. So you can pick it as a coach normally
Mm.
and tell that. But the doctor, of course, if you say you can't see, the doctor has to stop the fight. So he did nothing wrong, and he did, in fact, exactly what he had to do. He had no choice.
You've been in corners, Jeff Horn was notorious for having cuts on his eyes, and never once did we hear him say, he can't see. It was almost like he just put that in. He was fully focused on the mission at hand. Were you surprised, or are you surprised? No one could be in Michael Zerafa's head, but in a fight of that magnitude, were you surprised that he sort of didn't push, or he was kind of, happy, or not happy, but he was resolved to the fact that the fight was going to be called?
Look, I was shocked. Like, I think most of Australia, I was shocked, because these fights are hard to organise. They're hard to get together. But when we fought Manny Pacquiao, Jeff got a bad cut to the eye in the second round. I've gone, damn, I expect like most fights, when we fought Faneka, he got a headbutt, he was cut. Like, most fights, we're always getting stitched up at the end of the fight. So I'm just used to it. I treated those cuts all the way through the Pacquiao fight, and it was challenging. It was in a bad spot. But look, hey, this is a war. When you get into these big fights, you go in there and you're pretty much prepared to put your life on the line. You're a warrior. You're just in the zone, and you're basically, yes, of course, it's up to the corner. Like, when you get a bad cut, like obviously when Tim Tszyu was cut against Fundora. Now, that was a particularly bad one, because the blood was just consistently running into his eye. And we all know your vision goes blurry when you get an opaque substance like blood in your eye. Your vision does go blurry when you get enough blood in the eye. And that was a case there of a stoppage for sure. But this one, no question whatsoever that fight should have continued. I really don't know what was going through Michael's mind at the time. I don't know whether someone in the corner said to him, mate, we can get out of this and come back another day. But look, it wasn't even, as I said, that cut on the eyelid there, it's a nothing cut. Seriously, it was a nothing, in my opinion, anyway. But as I said, you can only go by what you see. Remember, I don't have all the doctor's reports, anything like that. But from what I saw, the glancing head clash, it wasn't like a sudden clash. It was more like, Nikita was sliding to the right, I think, as he was sort of moving more to the left. So it was sort of like a glancing sort of clash there. But it wasn't this massive collision of heads where they staggered back and blood gushed out. Yeah, it wasn't like that. No.
And I think another point is that, Michael said that he wanted to fight on, and he didn't say that he couldn't see. He just said it was blurry, but then he got caught out because it was on the audio, and then he sort of
Yeah,
backtracked and all
that
that
was
sort
bad.
of stuff. What's your
Look,
thoughts on that?
well, that was horrible. I think in a lot of ways, that was probably worse than the actual injury, is the fact that immediately, and I mean within a couple of minutes after him saying he can't see, to say, like, I said, no, it's blurry, but it's all good. Let's go. No, there was no let's go. There was no all good. I didn't hear any all good. All I heard was can't see. It's blurry. I can't see. That's what I heard. You know, I
Mm.
didn't hear any. It's all good. But it's all good. That was. I think that was the why he said that is beyond me. Because I mean, is he not aware that there's audio here there that's going to pick that up? And it just. I think it's one thing to have an injury. It's another thing to lie about it immediately and to sort of do that. So why he did that is just escapes me. I just don't know. I don't know what was going through his head, but I think that's what all the punters they've gone. Nah, this is just not only it's one thing just have it happen, another thing to lie about it. So yeah, that certainly didn't do him any favors at all, which is a shame. Such a shame.
Mm, mm. Last one for you. Can he recover from this, Michael Zerafa? The reputational damage, it's been scathing the last few days. Can he come back at all from this?
But I never say never to anything. I always say to people that the rest of your life starts right now. So it's what are you going to do with the rest of your life starting now? But what it does take is a really good, long, hard look in the mirror. I mean, I would be coming out if he did want to continue. I'd be coming out saying to the public, total acknowledgement, totally look, I stuffed up, I lied, I'd be totally honest. I shouldn't have stopped. Huge mistake. Whether he got bad advice from the corner or someone, I don't know, but I just fess up completely. There's no denying it. Don't deny it. Don't try to say anything. Just totally own up to it, own it, and then just say, I'm going to do better. You're going to see a completely different Michael Zerafa. And I think, he's got to get on top of this mentality issue, where you're going out there and you just can't do this to the betting public. You just can't do it. People come there, they spend a lot of money to watch these fights. And we've got a duty to give them what they come there for, what they paid for, and that was a great fight. And that is just, all he can do is apologise, and then he's got to prove it. His behaviour has got to then, he can't say that and then do a similar thing again. But it's really, you only get so many chances, as you know, and then eventually people just go, look, I'll never watch a fight with you in again. And so, look, it's a bad situation, and what he does from here on in will determine whether that's his last fight or whether he goes on. And I think it's really all up to Michael from here. But the first thing is to own it, stop denying it, stop trying to say, I said this, I said that. Just be bloody brutally honest with it. Be brutally honest, say, look, I just don't know what came over me, what I was thinking. Yeah. That's I think, Jai, that all he can do now to salvage, that's if he wants to go on. If the hunger's truly gone, and if you start looking for back doors like this and ways out of fights, then you've just got to say, look, maybe I'm not as hungry as I thought I was. Time to hang up the gloves.
Just one quick one. From what you saw from Nikita Tszyu in there, obviously, he did get hit a few times in round one, but he was more composed this fight. And in round two, he showed some improvements. From what you saw of Nikita Tszyu, can he kick on to that next level?
I think he can. Like, I was always impressed with Nikita as a kid in the amateurs. I remember thinking, look, this kid's good. I really did. I think he was a bit better than Tim in the amateurs. I always favoured Nikita over Tim. They were both great. They were both terrific in the amateurs. They didn't have that many fights, probably about 30 or so, but real good amateurs. And I always thought he's going to go places. But I've been, all I can say is I've felt with Nikita, he was a really good amateur, and he just hasn't been as disciplined in the pros as he was in the amateurs. And I could see in that first round that he was, trying to be more disciplined, but, his head wasn't moving enough. He was making some mistakes, but I did feel he was growing. And in that second round, I liked his physicality, and his stance is great. His balance was solid. And I thought, but I really feel that Nikita can go all the way, but he does need to still work on his skill set and just try to improve that defense a little bit more. I know he's obviously probably working on it, but I think he's got to work on that a bit more. But I think just his mental and physical strength can get him to the top with his natural ability. But yeah, he does. I think, as Tim said after the fight, he needs to just get some more fights under his belt. I think he's only had 11 or so fights. He just needs to get a few more fights and just refine his craft a little bit more. And if he does that, I think he has got the potential to go all the way.
Beauty. Thanks so much, Glenn. Always appreciate your time, mate.
You're very welcome, Jai. You take care and have a nice day. And, let's get boxing back on track. We've been finding some great momentum. We just don't want to lose it now. So, yeah, let's hope we can get past this event and get back on with it.
Very true. All right, I'll see
Take
you
care,
soon.
Jai. Cheers.